Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Ready, Christine. Do it.
Soon enough, Drake, you'll look like this guy. I know.
I can't wait.
All right. Well, what better way to start a birthday, huh, Mitch?
Yes, exactly.
Let's just get you pumped up. You
Dude,
know what's
I'm
crazy
always
about that?
pumped up.
Like I'm kind of like I was playing with Suno yesterday. I hadn't done it like in maybe a week or so because we're just doing other stuff. And so then I sat down yesterday because it was raining like crazy. It's been raining like nuts the past like off and on for the past like couple weeks. But yesterday was pretty bad. So, anyways, I was like, well, I'm trying to make this album, you know, that we can put on Spotify and everything. So slowly but surely, I'm getting some more, right? And some pretty cool tracks. Anyway, so for that one, it's obviously just more like a instrumental track, you know, it's not like a lot of lyrics and stuff. But I had a bunch of lyrics, okay, and then I put them into the Suno thing, and all it would fucking give me was "what you allow," like over and over, and then like kind of saying something. I'm like, why is it doing that? And I realized because in the beginning, like I wrote verse and I put the verse, I put chorus, I put the chorus, and then I put like bridge and I put in brackets instrumental because I wanted there to be like a bridge, but just like an instrument. I was trying to just play with it, right? and it interpreted that as just like kind of make the whole thing instrumental, you know, because I don't know how it's actually reading and understanding the instructions that you're giving it, because it's not an exact thing, right? So anyways, it kept doing that. Later I eventually got a cool track that sounds way different with the actual lyrics I wanted. But that one was pretty cool because what I figured out is what I've been doing with all these tracks actually is you get an initial idea, you have something you like, and then it starts, you know, it gives you something, right? Okay, I'm like, okay, something about this sounds really good. And then you keep giving it the lyrics or more lyrics or giving it little pieces here and there, and you just keep generating extended versions of it at different points that you like. And if you like a piece, you might extend it or whatever. And so you get like 5 or 6 or 7 different pieces, and they all should fit together at some point, but they don't necessarily all fit together. Like you might do a 1 and you extend it to a 2, and you might extend that somewhere in there, but that part 2 wasn't extended necessarily from the end of part 1. It might have been from somewhere else in part 1, and then you might extend something about part 2 somewhere. So those 3 pieces don't necessarily, you can't just line them up. You have to figure out how to overlap them. And so sometimes the effects they put on it won't exactly cross over. So I'll have to do something where I'll do a crossfade, and then I'll put some kind of like a delay or something, or like an echo on it, so it kind of like masks the fact that there's a transition that you would hear. It just sounds more like there's an effect there that sounds really cool. So like that one we were just listening to hear out when she would say equal and 1 1 1 1 1 and do like that echoey thing, that was something I put in there using Logic Pro. So I actually took that vocal part and I edited it and I put it throughout in different parts, and you know, on certain beats, and then put certain effects on it. And then I would do parts where you could like have it channel and do these different things. So what's cool about it is you could see how you could still add your own creativity to it and put it together certain ways. But also I was doing that, which kind of brings us, I don't know if this is on our list or not, but did you guys see, and I think we talked about it actually, that video from anyways, one of these guys we were watching, and he was talking about like how, you know, the Suno and the AI music is basically going to fuck every artist, you know, especially the ones that want to make any money from it, right?
Yeah,
Because like
yeah,
I'm not trying to make money from it directly, so I could still be creative and do what I want with it because I have a purpose behind it. And I was thinking,
right.
you know, the only reason why anybody would listen to your music, let me think. It's not the only reason people listen to it, but it's like at a certain point, it just seems like the only reason to make music will be because you actually want to express something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys, I'm sure they enjoy it, women and, you know, guys generally, right? They might enjoy what they're doing, and there may be some self-expression, but they're still doing it for money. And you see, like, you could see how much it's influenced. Like, I was watching this one video of like this guy making beats. He's like popular guy on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever, and he makes like beats. His name's like Ocean or something like that, something like that. And he was sitting with this girl, and she was like some kind of frumpy looking white girl who, if you saw her, you would think she's probably into Game of Thrones or something. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't think she's anything to do with trap music, but she makes these really hard trap beats. You'd be like, what? What do you, that person? Right. And so he was like asking her about her story and everything. They made a beat together, and it was kind of a cool little video. But I'm saying even that person, and I know I'm stereotyping that she should like Game of Thrones or something, but I'm saying like kind of nerdy looking or whatever. But my point is, even then, it's like, okay, I'm making these hard trap beats. Is it because they really like it, or is it that there's some kind of like, how much does money and the pursuit of having to make money and profit and all these things influence even what we think is our self-expression? Like our self-expression is like this little candle, this little flame, you know, and then we're we're channeling that into something else that's not really actually who we are, what we want to say, or what we want to
Think about this.
express.
Think about like when you're in high school, right? And how much of your self-expression is that you just want to be liked by the other kids. You just want to be
Exactly.
popular.
Yeah.
You just like, and like that doesn't even have to do necessarily with money, in that regard,
Well,
but it is the same
okay.
expression,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same, like, because you want respect. That's what money, you want respect, you want power, you want like all that stuff. But
It's just at the level at which your resonance in the system
it's your
can get it.
currency. It's your
Yeah, but I'm
currency.
saying it's at the level where you can get it, because you might
Yeah.
think like, well, that person's not trying to be rich or powerful and everything. It's like, but in their little bubble, that is what it's the same seed. It's the
Yeah.
same basic program.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so you're so heavily influenced there, and you think that's your expression. That's the crazy thing, is you think like, I'm just into this. I'm into this kind of music or whatever. And it's like, no, you're not. Don't,
It's
don't fool yourself.
the whole negative positive polarity thing. Like it's so
Yeah.
simple, right? We talk about it often, but just how much of our life where we think, oh, this is me expressing myself, or like this is why I want to do it. I'm really into music. In reality, you're just like acting like a fucking battery, because your life is so shitty every day, and it's like this negative fucking compounding. I was saying like, oh, positive, fuck yeah, sick trap beats. Dude, people love me. This is so cool. And then they crash again, and it's just
Or
like
even
this
maybe you just get off on the
cycle.
energy of enjoying it, but it's still like
Yeah.
it's just a pleasure experience that's sort of
Right.
like an addictive point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like we
Dude,
none of us really even know what real self-expression is, in the sense of, not that we don't know it in principle, but we don't, like, our world is not set up in a way where you can really do that. So if
It's
that's the
like
case, yeah, good.
none of us really know what unconditional love is. Like we
Right.
know it in principle, but you can't
Mhm.
possibly know what unconditional love is. Why? Because you don't unconditionally love. How could you say that? I'm a mother. I do this. I unconditionally love my child. Bull fucking shit. Like that's not to say you don't care about your child. Let's not get this wrong, right?
Yeah.
But unconditional love, what that really means, if you unconditionally loved, even if we're just looking at your child, right? You unconditionally love, you would realize, hey, there is a whole system out here that is going to affect my child. And if I don't do something about that system, it will have an effect. It will, like, love or not, like feeling or not feeling, right? The love would be, let me, like, okay, if you saw, for all the people that are like, I unconditionally love, right? If you saw some stranger, coming after your child, and like you're in a park and some stranger is just like making a beeline for your child, you would get in the way of that stranger, right? Like, no, hands down, no question about it. You'd be like, I'm
Right.
stopping this fucking stranger. You're done. It's over. Ugh. I fucking love my child. I don't give a fuck about that stranger, right? Okay, great. There's a whole fucking system that is barreling down at your
Right.
child. You're just like, well, I still,
They have to go along with it, right? How else are they going to be normal?
yeah, like I
Yeah.
gotta put them in school.
And
Yeah.
that's where the vocabulary point comes in. It's a lack of and it's like, it's not per se the lack of knowing some specific high word, you know what I'm saying, like something you learned in English class or something. I'm not saying it's like their vocabulary isn't up there and that's why they don't understand it. It's just the vocabulary you have, it, it's so it's like, you know what it is too? Okay, you can have the same box of Lego bricks. Like imagine some random assortment of Lego bricks. And
remember
one person can look at that and try to build like a little spaceship or something, or I don't know, it just looks
Mitch.
okay, whatever.
Mitch,
Versus
remember
somebody
when we
else
had
takes it and makes some crazy like thing that you're like, how did they do that? It's the same bricks, but
remember
their
when we had
understanding
that
of the pieces is
podcast where we were looking at like if Cameron's autistic or not?
what?
It's
Which
like
time?
Why is there even a debate now?
it's not a debate. It's
Guys, I got
No, we
vaccinated when I
settled
was
it
a
on
kid,
the
just like everybody else.
right.
Cameron's
Well, did
okay.
you
So
get all
Matt,
72? I heard
everybody
you were
has
supposed
a
to have
box of
72.
Legos. How amazing would it be?
Yeah. Yeah, it is it because there's vocabulary to vocabulary, right? Because you have the vocabulary of like understanding what's here right now. It's like the depth of what's here. And then you also have the vocabulary like the more advanced shit that a lot of people don't know, like the term erudite. Like how many people know what that term is, right? But it's like, so that is a form. And when you have that word integrated, it's fucking helpful. Because there's sometimes where that word is actually what's going to be best to
Yeah.
express something specifically. But it's more the other way of looking at it is the vocabulary of being able to like see every single thing that's here right now, which includes where it's fucking headed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So like if you think making money, just those words, what does that resonate in a person? Right. And is it they just think about okay themselves and surviving, or do they look at the bigger system? Like how do they look at that? So it's just, yeah, so it's not to say that the other words are not important, but even just the basic vocabulary, some say, well, I already have that vocabulary. Well,
Try reading Heaven's Journey to Life.
right, but it's like, yeah, you don't actually understand because, like that point you were making, Drake, the parent thinks that they love their child. And again, like you said, it's not to say that they don't love their child, but then the idea that the love is unconditional, there are conditions on it.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
it's and also the only reason why somebody would react to you saying that they don't unconditionally love their kid is because they're thinking about it as the feeling they have inside, which
Right.
is a fucked up definition of love.
Right. But like I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, um, did my mother love me? Yeah, I know she felt like a lot of love towards me, right? But also, let me go even a generation back even further. Did her mother love her? Yeah, definitely. But also, my grandmother grew up in like extreme poverty in a third world country, you know? And so like there were things that she had to do in order to survive, which meant that, okay, maybe the kid goes to daycare. Maybe the kid is like, you have to eat this food. I know you don't like this food, but I got to force you to eat it because we can't afford anything else. That sort of stuff. It's like those are the conditions. So, yeah, does the parent still love their child? Of course. But then there's all these conditions that come in where you have to compromise your child. You have to compromise the raising of your child. And that's like, oh, but that's not my fault. And I totally understand that.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not about whose fault. It's about there's a system that we have to take responsibility for if we're actually going to express unconditional love. That system has to be taken responsibility by us because we can see it, and then that would actually create the conditions where we could have like unconditional love, where it could be what are the conditions really? If you look at it, the conditions are, um, well, you're my child, you listen to me, I have enough money, like there's all these conditions, right? Where why is that not extended to any child? Well, I'm not related to them. Like what, there's I don't have enough money to do all that. There's so many things that like that's a condition, that's a condition, that's a condition. And it's not to nitpick, but really to be, kind of like what we're saying is like self-honest about it is, well, wouldn't that be better for all of us? Wouldn't that be better for all of us if there weren't these economic conditions that cause parents, like right now? Christine was just telling me about this interview that she watched where they were discussing how millennial women, millennials in general, are not good parents. and they're being clowned on by Gen Z, right? Like Gen Z is making all these videos about how millennials are terrible parents because they're just allowing their children to do whatever because of the way that they were raised, and they're not realizing that they're giving their children basically the same upbringing but on the opposite extreme, right? And it's not supporting the child actually. And so instead of being really strict with their children and really like however they were raised, they're just raising their kids on an iPad. And somebody was saying that they're saying Gen Z, we're making a pact. We're making a pact, Gen Z, that we are not going to raise our children on screens, okay? Because we're seeing what's happening to these kids that are being raised that are on screens, okay? And I'm bringing that up because a lot of these millennials, a lot of mothers right now are putting their kid right into daycare, and they think it's normal. And it's because mom has to go to work, dad has to go to work, and then they come home and they're like, why does this kid want to be they don't want to do bad time, they're all over me. It's like, yeah, you're not spending any time with your kid. This is the only time they get to see you is when you're home from work, they're home from daycare or whatever, and now they're like, I want to be with you, and you don't even want to be around them. Like, that's fucked. That's hard on a child. That's not unconditional. That's not unconditional love.
Mhm.
Let's be honest, right? But it's so accepted within our society. It's like, like what's that? I've probably talked about this here before, but you ever see those like compilations of all those children when parents go to like pick their kid up from daycare
Mhm.
from the first day of daycare, and it's like
Yeah.
they got all the sappy music, and it's like, oh, I just love you, and then like you're seeing the kid just like
Yo,
like as soon as they see the parents, like, why did you leave me here? What the
the destruction of
It's-
innocence.
it
It's
is.
systematic destruction of
And
innocence.
look at how it's
The
like,
fuck?
look at how it's portrayed. They play this beautiful music over it, and they say, "Oh, he loved me so much, like he missed me, like oh, look, I came back for you," all this stuff. And then like sometimes they'll even put like, "This is just like God." God. Sometimes you feel like God's left you, but
It
then
is a lot like that.
it
He's
is a lot
deliberately
like yeah,
abandoning you and torturing you so that you'll come running to him. And whenever I'm like gone from our place for a bit and I come back, the kids run up and they're like, "Hey, Cameron!" And they're like excited to see me. But it's not a like, it's not that sort of, you know what I mean? It's like it's exactly like
not the
whenever
trauma
we
experience.
it's like exactly like whenever we go on a trip and we see each other, or like
Mhm.
let's say you come to visit or I pick you up at the airport and it's like, dude, like you're excited to see the other person, but then after
Mhm.
that you're like, all right, cool. So, anyways, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
like that. It's not a, oh my god, thank you so much. You know what I mean? It's not that bullshit. That's like this
Right.
weird. It's like a genuine like, oh, I'm so excited to see you. Like this is
Like,
awesome.
okay, first off, that can only happen, that second response of like, oh, thank you so much. If you're put in a position where it's like you're in dire straits, like you feel like the pressure, you feel stressed the fuck out. You're like, I'm not surviving.
Isn't that the image of people like when they're in church or when they have the experience of God? They're just like, oh, it's like this, like,
Dude,
you
that's
know.
such a good point. Because okay, man, I don't know like how quickly you want to get into this. Because I know
Let me
Go
we
in
play
the
another
deep
three
end.
minute. Let me play another 3 minute song with no words real quick while we think about that.
but
Go just straight for it, Drake. Straight for the jugular.
so okay, um, that tape video that you sent, right? Where he's talking about um, like he was just being asked. I don't know what he was being asked, like where you see the future or whatever, and he's like, "Well, let me just kind of go based on history. In history, the average person was always basically a peasant or a slave. Whatever. There's always been like kings, people who like they lived well. They've always lived well. That's just what it is. And then there's everybody else. And for the vast majority of history, everyone else lived as a peasant, lived as a slave. Your life was just basically meaningless and just toil, all of that.
And sold
And
on the idea of, oh, afterwards you'll get your reward.
right, right. And he's like, and it's only been really recently that we've seen where people can kind of move up within society, and like they can go from being an average person to a king, and like even the average person was living relatively well compared to in past times, and like you didn't have to worry about protecting yourself so much because you could afford a home, you could work a factory job, you could provide for your entire family, and everything was pretty much taken care of in that regard. He's like, and those were good years. And now that cycle is ending. And now we're seeing that, and this is the point that I wanted to bring up here, was we're seeing now people are like, oh, my dollar does not buy as much as it used to. Someone was making the point on Friday on the Hangout that they were talking with someone who makes over 100K a year. They were going to purchase something and they were like, I can't afford this.
A mattress.
A mattress. Yeah, they were going to purchase a mattress, and they're like, I can't afford this. Like, I need the cheap one. Like,
Oh,
because
by the way, though, they so fucking like rape you at the mattress stores. Well, not
yeah.
literally. You walk in, they're
Imagine
like, lie
literally,
down.
we got the mattresses. We already got the
It's like you buy it because you've been traumatized on the mattress, so
lay
now
down.
you like identify with it.
Stockholm syndrome.
No, like you can go in there and pay $8,000 for a mattress, and
Yeah.
it's not good. Like we paid maybe 3,000 for ours, and it's like a custom, like shows all the layers and organic latex and this and that. Like it's so fucking nice. And I'm just saying, like those stores, they're not even that good when you're paying like $10,000 for a mattress. Still not even that good actually.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you can pay a lot for a mattress and get nothing.
So anyway, but this guy was making the point of like, I like he was explaining like, yeah, no, I used to have disposable income, and now my interest rates went up on my mortgage and this and that, I was talking to somebody the other day. They were saying like their insurance went up, where they were previously paying like $700, now they're paying like 2,000. Like it's it's pretty interesting because this is happening like across the board, right? Everyone is experiencing like, oh, my dollar doesn't buy as much as it used to, regardless of how much money you have. Your dollar doesn't buy as much as it used to, and I'm bringing this up in the context of what he was saying when he was being interviewed was, why is no one panicking? Why is this just like, oh yeah, no, I don't have enough money. Okay, well, things are just more
I
expensive.
think it's like a silent panic, and like they can't process the panic, so it's just this weird suppression that gets channeled into scrolling social media
Well, yeah, that
or
going out
alcohol.
on the weekends,
Yeah,
smoking, drinking,
alcohol.
whatever.
But there's
Again,
also a
it
part where
was,
people believe it's cyclical, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
They don't
It'll get
understand what the
better.
cycles are implying, like that it's actually like a spiral, like
spiral.
yeah, exactly right. So um and he also made the point of uh that from his perspective it's going to be like a permanent locking out,
Yeah.
right? And I agree. Like, I mean, okay, if you couple that, okay, I'm gonna lay it up, okay, and then you can dunk it. Couple that
Greg, you
with
can
the
dunk,
whole
right?
right.
Of course.
Okay.
Couple
Wait,
that,
why are you
okay.
asking though?
So
Why?
Andrew Tate's talking to all like the just the random people, right? So
Yeah.
he's saying it in a certain way.
Uh-huh.
He's like the Trump of something. So, anyways,
I'm like
Yeah.
a Trump. I'm like, what color is your Bugatti?
okay, so so connect that to the Yanis Varoufakis.
Yeah.
They're talking about the same thing.
We've learned how to say his
Tell
name.
us, tell us what Giannis is talking about again.
Uh, Giannis Varoufakis is the techno-feudalism guy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one who's basically saying, listen, the way he describes it though is, Spotify, Amazon, Facebook, all these platforms are not marketplaces. They're specifically tailoring an experience for you, and making it more and more tailored towards you. The more you interact with it, the more it's geared towards you to just keep you locked within the system. And at the same time, out competing anybody who wants to sell you anything because it's on
Yeah.
their platform. It's kind of
Right.
like,
Yeah.
remember when we watched that
Then
video,
look,
the virtual
the
reality
one
video?
dude, the guy who's like he's like at the library and he's like, "Oh, I'll be a computer programmer," and then it shows the news with Devin.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so good.
Yeah. Okay.
But okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna finish up this point of like, look at how Amazon, if you wanted to sell diapers, right? They literally, there was a diaper store, business, whatever, that people loved. They would send diapers direct to your home. It was not that expensive. Amazon looked at their business model and said, hey, we'd like to buy this from you. And they said, no, we're good. We enjoy doing this. We like doing this. And then Amazon said, fuck you. And then they basically just, however much they were selling their diapers for, they outcompeted them on price, and they sold the same exact stuff to the same people, and they were like, okay, so we're putting you out of business. They literally put them out of business, and then now it's like, if you want diapers, you got to go to Amazon and buy them from Amazon, and
And you're
they're
gonna pay more.
cheap as they used to be. Like, Amazon's like, fuck everybody, fuck you, fuck your customers. We wanted the business, we're gonna take it, right? Which is the same thing. Isn't there like an exact story of that, of Standard Oil going into every neighborhood where there's a gas station, and, oh, you're selling gas for a dollar a gallon, we'll sell it for 10 cents a gallon. And then like the people who are going to get gas, they're like, I know you, I know this is your business, but fuck, 10 cents a gallon? Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, my hands are tied. My hands are tied. And then that gas station goes out of business, and then here comes Standard Oil, and they're like, yeah, it's a $1.50 a gallon now. Sorry, guys. You're gonna pay more than you ever paid, you know? And
You don't
now
have a
we own a
choice now.
monopoly. There's nothing you could say, right?
Okay, so just to kind of connect those points in another way, if you take what Andrew Tate was saying, back we had kings, right? What gave the kings power?
Gone.
What gave the nobility power? Well, I mean, obviously not
It
really.
was the belief in that they held the position in society too, so that the court around
Well,
them
what makes you a lord in England?
having land.
Right. So they owned the land.
Thanks,
And the
Mitchell.
only
That was
thing back then,
awesome.
there wasn't machines and shit. Like there wasn't technology like computers. Like the only way you could make money was work the land. Maybe you could.
Yeah.
It wasn't even until like later where you had guilds and things like that. Like you didn't have all that at the same level. So if basically you want, if you're just an average person, you need a job, you go and you work on the land, and you're the slave of the landowner.
Yeah.
Okay, they own the land. They can kick you off. They can do whatever they want, right? And so this is what Varoufakis is explaining. So that was feudalism.
Yeah.
At a certain point, and he goes through and explains a lot of the details, so you can look at his whole thing. But at a certain point, we get to capitalism where you can run a business, right? And then you can. Okay, let me back up. When you have the land, you're basically renting the land. So the person can work on it. They can give you some of the stuff from what you make or whatever, but it's like you're renting out the land itself. Capitalism is you have a product, there's a market, people can go and buy that, and you can make a profit. So it's your ability to sell a product and make a profit that gives you money and wealth and power. You can still obviously own land, and that's a part of it, right? Real estate and so forth, but you don't have to. You don't have to be a landowner. You could create a product and sell it and make profit, right? Does that make sense? That's capitalism. But now we're at a point where he's explaining with all these tech platforms where you look at the Amazon thing, where are you going to sell your product now? You got to go through Amazon. They're going to take a cut. They own the land. It's the cloud. It's a server. They own, it's like, so they're the new feudalists in the technology point. And so, and then even in that point, if they don't like you, they can cut you out. They can deplatform you, or they can just outcompete you at a certain point. Like that example, like you look at Amazon, there's a product that's doing really well. They just figure out how to make the same thing cheaper. They promote it on their platform. People buy that. The other one goes out of business. Now they are the ones selling that product. But the point is they own the servers, right? They own the land. And so, and this is why another reason when we talk a lot, I keep harping on this point of like, to change the system, it's not going to be through primarily a focus in social media. It's not that we can't use it while it's available, but if it's not also in person, you're not going to win, because it's like you're going to go on the king's land and start talking. He's going to be like, get out of here. What are you doing? Right. If you're disrupting anything, that's what happens. There was religious wars. Imagine like some, priests from some other religion come in there and they're going to like kill them and get them out of there. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you ever like wake up with like a certain like phrase, something on your mind, right?
Yeah, fucking Suno songs.
Yeah, I had this. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, it was something to the effect of like, real people want to see real people. It was something like to that effect. It was like, and I was thinking about that of like,
I like that.
How are you going to get through to a real person? They want to see someone real. And I mean real in the sense of they're not digital, they're not fake, but also like real. And kind of going back to what I was trying to say in the beginning about the music thing. Is when we get to a point where there's no point to do it for money because you can't. Because that guy was making such a cool point, that Polish dude, of like, like he was like, okay, so I can go on Suno and I can chart and I can pay $10 a month or whatever it is, and I can make 500 songs. Let's do the math. That's 2 cents a song. So I can produce in 30 seconds, essentially, or less, and like essentially a pretty good track for 2 cents. Like, and I made 3 yesterday, not counting the one. Well, okay, let's just not even count the one we just played on the call, because I wouldn't really call that a real song. That was just like a cool sounding little track or whatever. But I made 2 actual real songs that are pretty good.
Yeah.
And yes, I did some editing on it, like rearranging stuff, putting some effects and stuff, which you don't have to do, but that's just where the technology's at the moment. If you want to make it like just really good, or at least what I would consider good. But even that, I only spent a couple hours doing it yesterday, and I was able to make 2 tracks plus that other one. And it costs me, just you take my time out of the equation, it only cost me probably less because I have way more. I have like the upper tier subscription or whatever, right? So I haven't done the math on it, but it's like $30, $24 a month or something, and you get 10,000 credits. Which if you divide that, I think by two, it's 2 credits per song. That's 5,000 songs, right? I mean, I'm not even close to hitting those the credits, right? So do the math on that. That's like less than a cent per song, right?
Yeah.
Here's my point. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for a job. I'm not just doing it for enjoyment either. You could, I suppose, but why would I care if anyone listens to it? If I was just doing it for myself to enjoy it, fine, whatever. But why am I doing it? Because I'm trying to put a certain message into it to share with people so that when they listen to it, they're impulsed with that message if they want to listen to it, if they like the message and you know what I mean? So it's not just I'm trying to be an artist and get famous and make money from it. It's like, no, there's a point. I have something to say. And now I figured out a way of like, oh, dude, I can actually easily make good music with the message in it. It's a lot easier to do than it was before. Now I can spend an hour doing it and make something that would have taken months to do before to even get close to that level of quality. So at a certain point, it's another example of like realness. What's the point of making music? If you start taking the money point out of the equation, because we were talking about how much it affects your self-expression.
Yeah.
If there's no point of fame, because you can't make money off of it anymore at a certain point. Because, okay, why can't you make money at a certain point off of fame? Because there's going to be some AI generated fucking thing that's way better than you. That'll be famous.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to describe. It's like with Suno, and I have not used Udio at all, but I'm assuming it's probably got something similar. There's something about the music, like, you go through maybe 5 or 10 iterations of something, and you're like, it sucks. Oh, and then you finally get one, you're like, hey, this is something here. I think this is probably good. I don't have to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I start doing it, I start playing with it, and I listen to it, I'm like, oh wait, this is actually good. Like, is it the best thing ever? Maybe not, but I'm like, it's no song that I listen to is the best song ever. Like, they're all just pretty good. I like them because they're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking for it to be the best one ever. There's a certain level at which if it hits this level, I'm like, okay, I want to listen to that. I like it, right? And it's able to do that. And I was watching this other video. This guy said, oh, it was that young Asian guy, the Gen Z guy, where he's what if it figures out like sort of some kind of like audio crack? Like maybe it's not even making what we would even consider music per se, or maybe it still sounds like music, but there's some other element in it that it's figured out, like a TikTok video where you're like, there's nothing particularly great about this thing, but I want to watch it, and I want to watch another one, and I want to watch another one. It's like it's figured out the addictive point. When it can do that, which maybe it already does have.
I think it already does that. I don't know. I really am. I like music.
So you're not even trying to compete with artistry anymore. You're just competing with, can this thing hit the dopamine?
Can this hit my spot?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So at a certain point, even if you're doing it for the purpose of trying to become famous without money or whatever, you know what I mean? If it's like, if you could just hit the button and get the dopamine, what do you care about?
Remember you sent me this video of like this, it seemed like these producers that were just in the studio playing around with an AI for the voice.
Dr. Mix.
Yeah. Dude, that was so good. Like, obviously the guy can't sing, right? And
he's super good at like keyboards and percussion and stuff, but he's not a singer at all.
He's not a singer. And so like, but like he's putting the music together, he's composing it, basically. And like, I'm listening to him put the music together. He knows the notes he wants to hit. He's like, listen, don't laugh at me.
He can roughly hit the notes. He just doesn't have a trained voice. Like, he's not a singer, but he's not like he's not.
You wouldn't go watch this guy sing.
No.
Nobody's gonna.
No, he's not a singer at all. But he can at least get close to the notes that he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's, man, when he was singing that song, that was was it You Got a Friend or something like that, right? But he's singing the song. It's his voice. Like when he first sang it, I was like, okay. But then when they edited up with the AI, which is just like a few clicks, and he's like, ooh, I want to put a bravado in here. Like I want my voice to go like this. I'm listening to it and I'm like, Holy
And it still has his voice. Like you can tell it's not, they just made a new AI voice. It's still his voice. They just made it better.
yeah. And like I'm
So
like
you could still be the singer if you wanted to, and you can make your voice what you can't physically do yourself, right?
right. And I'm listening to it and like it was giving me that like that frisson that like, you know, the hair on the back of your neck like kind of like stands up a little bit and you're like, ooh, this is good. Like
Yeah.
I was getting that feeling. And it's like it's that crack. It's that like, oh,
Uh,
you know, like I
No, it was crazy because okay, so just to give a quick point, like so he plays on the key on the synthesizer, like the background like track of just like the music, right? For the song that he already knows, like a famous song. And then he does three different songs and they use three different techniques. And on one of them, he just plays on the keyboard the melody of the song. Okay, because he's not going to sing it this time. He just played. So it was like that Shaka Khan song, which I had
Yeah,
never
yeah,
heard,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's a really cool song.
It
It
was
sounded
good.
really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he plays the notes of the melody of the song over his keyboard track that he put down, and so that puts MIDI notes. And so if you ever seen like someone doing production, like probably anytime recently, you just see like these like bars, like literal like blocks, almost looks like Tetris or something, right on this screen.
is that what
So
they
those
said
are MIDI.
bars?
They're MIDI
Bars.
notes, right? And it's like data of what note to play and how long and some other information. And then you could just change the instrument if it's software, right? To be a different, it could be a synthesizer, it could be a different sound, it could be a guitar, whatever. But you have the record of the notes. So it records that. And then they go in, they choose the voice that they want. And then he types on each note the word he wants it to say, and then even what syllable.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then in between the notes, he's able to draw a line like that with his mouse or whatever. That so it's like it glides up, right? And he's able to, and he's like, well, I want it to glide slower. So he extends like the slope of it, And then at the end, like Drake was saying, he's like put some vibrato on that note, like that kind of thing where it's like wavers, right? At the end of a note sometimes. And he like pulls up this tool and it shows like this waveform like this at the end of the note, and he's like stretching it out so it's like longer or it's like bigger, and he's literally getting the exact vibrato. It's like exactly the exact right amount he wants for the same right amount of time. And then they do another one where he sings, and then they make it Celine Dion's voice essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So it's like his voice and then Celine Dion's voice, but it was his voice that originally made the notes, and then they like cloned it into what sounds like Celine Dion's voice singing "My Heart Will Go On," and you're like, so you could even use Suno to make tracks that you wouldn't be able to make yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't even know how to sing, but you can get the right notes, or you could just play them on the keyboard and then you can make it have the vocals you want. Because Suno, you don't really have a lot of control over the vocals. It's just gonna. So that's the thing I have right now with it is I have to do like 10 generations before I'm like, oh, it's finally singing the lyrics close to what I was even thinking, or just with really good cadence, and it's not just kind of making it sound weird, like it's just like not I don't know what that's called, but it's just like lyricism. Like whenever you're singing the vocal, whenever you're singing the lyrics of something, there's a many different ways you can say it.
Yeah.
But you can say it in a way where it actually fits in properly, or it's like the person's just saying the words and it's not on the beat or anything like that.
That used to be the job of like the ghostwriter. Is the ghostwriter would like they'd write the lyrics and then they would give you the cadence, give the artist the cadence of like, okay, so you're gonna hit it like da 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 da.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a point.
Yeah, that was
so that's what I'm looking for when I'm doing it. I'm like, when is it going to get the cadence that maybe it's not the one I'm thinking of, because I wasn't thinking of a cadence, but when I wrote it, it had a certain idea, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. This one, it just did the cadence perfectly. I'm keeping this, right? And it always seems coincidentally where the music is also really good. And I mean, I'm just kind of playing conspiracy theorist, but it kind of seems like it's like you got to spend 10 credits and then we'll give you a good one. It just seems like that. That could be total wrong, because sometimes it's a long time. And what I've noticed, though, I'll just give you guys my process. Like what I've noticed is if I'm only listening for the music, it's like I never get what I want. But when I've got my lyrics and then I'm like, it's not doing it the way I want, and I look at the lyrics and I go, it's because of this word here.
Yeah.
Like if like I'm just giving you an example, like there's nothing to fear, and it's like always doing that wrong. And I'm like, what if I just take out theirs and it's like nothing to fear? You know what I mean? Like so what I mostly am doing in the Suno is generating one, listening to the way they're singing it, editing the lyrics, and keep doing that over and over until it's like bam, I've got it. Then you can take that and put it in Logic or whatever and mess with all the other stuff, right?
Right.
But what was the point of bringing that up? It's like,
You get like 10 iterations, and then it's like
anyways, like, yeah,
that point, like just on that point, I like the point the guy was making, the Polish guy was making about how if you're making music for like commercials, like those people
or
would
like
get
stock.
paid, yeah,
Yeah.
or stock music or anything like that, it's like you're out of a job. Like that's really cool.
Also, what kind of fucking job is that anyway?
But
Okay.
hang on, because he makes a really good point, and this point is that nobody cares about those people, which you're saying right now. You know,
I mean,
Well, okay,
yeah.
I know what you're saying, Mitch, but it's like a job like any other job. Like imagine
Right,
you're just a
right,
guy who
right.
works at Microsoft and you do basic level coding and shit. Like you're
So-
just doing
Right.
something they need you to do. You're not deciding what, it's like some companies like we're doing a commercial, we need some kind of nice music for when they're walking in the park and you're
Right.
like, cool,
They
I
got duped
you.
into the system. They just haven't found us yet. So put it like that.
But these people though, like they would write these jingles. It's like, okay, they go on strike. Who gives a fuck? Like who actually would give a flying
In other
fuck?
words, he's like, they're not doctors, they're not farmers, where it's like you're gonna feel the effect yourself.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you think the companies, these big corporations, or just corporations in general, care about those people?
They're not
They're just
even
going to push the
celebrities.
button and get the thing. Yeah, they're not going to
They-
care. So they're going to use whatever is. It's just like Mercedes is putting robots in their factories. BMW is putting. They don't care about the worker. Like, well, but how's this going to affect them? They're like, dude. If they actually cared,
They
they'd be
can't
paying
care
people
about
more
it.
money. If they
Right,
can't
right.
care about it, that's how the
Right,
fucking
they
system works.
legally
That's
can't.
the
Yeah.
problem.
That
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. That's
So-
why we keep
I'm just
spreading
looking at how
it.
to tie it back. So like this point of because there was something you mentioned earlier about, or no, I guess it was the Andrew Tate thing when he was talking about everything's at a certain point going to lock everybody out. That's like the point of it. So the feudalism point, it's like, why would the king ever want anyone to have any power? It's like once you own all the land, why would you ever want that to change? And he said, Andrew Tate said in the past, it's like unless there's some kind of a chaotic point that kind of stirs things up a little bit, you can't get any shift there.
I mean, consider it. Yeah, and he's right. I agree. To that extent, anyway. Because look at the point of it's not just the musicians, like the people who write for commercials or whatever. It's like we just saw a bunch of writers go on strike for Hollywood, right? Because they're like, oh, this AI thing is going to take my job. And then there's a whole bunch of like Tyler Perry's. I don't think I need to create a $800 million studio anymore. I could just use this AI. Plus, we're seeing now Adobe's rolling out
Right.
Sora and OpenAI into their.
When you put that into it, it makes perfect sense why he would cancel the studio or put it
Yeah.
on pause. Because at first you're like, well, Sora can't really do it, all that stuff yet. But maybe describe what you saw from the Adobe thing.
So basically, and it was cool having Latanya there as well to kind of share her experience of, she's worked on movie sets. She's
been in movies with like what's that girl from Destiny's
Rowland.
Child? Kelly Rowland. She's in like Hallmark movies, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. And so just her sharing, okay, you don't need to spend all these hours perfecting B-roll. Like literally, okay, I've been on a set here locally. There's a local film school that is very I guess people come here from all over the states to go to this film school, right?
What is
and they
it?
do
Full Sail?
Full Sail.
What-
You know Full Sail. Look at
I've even heard of that.
that. Okay, cool.
I didn't know what it was,
do you
but I've
think
heard
you had a
that.
fucking special bubble over there? We only know you for Disneyland. We know a lot about Orlando. Okay.
Wow, I didn't fucking know.
Got fucking
I
alligators.
didn't know it was in Orlando.
I went to high school right next to Full Sail, and I just thought it was just like some random ass, like, I don't know. Like,
Isn't that what you did? Rowing club?
yeah, exactly. Mitchell knows all about my life. If you want to know, anything
Ironic because you don't have sales in a rowing thing.
about-
See, set you up for that one, Drake. Well, Drake also didn't you used to wrestle too? What you were saying? Something on the Friday call?
Oh, jeez. if
Drake's
you
like
want to
this
hear my life story,
fucking
just call
Renaissance
Mitchell.
man, connoisseur of all this random shit. Yeah. I
But
thought I was cool. Then I see Drake.
so at Full Sail, basically, I remember because at certain times they'll do a casting call and they'll just say, hey, whoever wants to be in a movie or wants to be in a commercial.
Did you ever go in one?
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to tell you the title of it.
Oh shit! Tell us. Come on.
You'll probably look it up and find it.
Fucking tell us.
Pretty hilarious, actually.
Does
Are
it
you
have to do
like?
with
Are you like?
wrestling gators?
Do you say something?
I'm like the main character.
No fucking way, Drake. We need to see
Yeah.
it. Is it?
So-
Is it? How fucked is the movie? Like 1 to 10. Like, is it really bad or is it like? Just
It's okay. It's all right.
okay, it's okay.
fun.
All right.
It
Is
is-
it fun?
It's
Dude.
fun, yeah.
How long is this? movie?
Once this Sora thing goes live, Drake, I'm gonna put you in lots of movies. Don't worry.
Dude, and make
But
a documentary
anyway-
of Drake's life.
But get to the Adobe thing.
Anyway, let me get
Bridge
to
the
this thing.
gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I remember being on set. There was a lot of okay. We have to. Everybody just stay quiet in this room. We need to take the audio from this room. It's like, okay, why? Because a room actually has a sound to it. Even there's nothing going on in that room. It has a sound to it. We want to take that audio and make sure that it's in the track. You know, oh, we got to film this over again. Okay, let's try to do this where you walk this way. Okay, now walk this way. Like all these things make this
Little tiny things just to adjust
Yeah.
details. Yeah.
but it would take so much time to do all these things that were really important to the shot. Can you look up this way? Can you look over that? And now what they're showing with this Adobe Premiere Pro, is that they can literally they've already got the character, they've already got the scene, whatever. They could change the fucking wardrobe, which I remember there was a whole thing about wardrobe. The movie I was in was like a little 17-minute, short, right? We spent days filming this thing for 17 minutes of actual film, right? We had wardrobes, we had makeup, we had like all this stuff that had to be like very specific for creating like an actual, like, hey, this is a good shot. And oh, I want to make sure I have this piece here too. Can you say it this way? And okay, now with what they're showing with this Adobe, adding AI into it, you're editing a video, it's already taking in the lighting, so you don't have to sit there and fumble with the lighting again. You don't have to, can I get this person to wear this instead? Could you do the same scene but wear this shirt instead? I want to see what that looks like. No, you could just literally click on the shirt and
Yeah.
just like, we're changing
They,
the wardrobe.
they show the actor like standing there, kind of like going like this, and then like they like swipe over, and it's the exact. It's like fluid, the same scene. They didn't change the actual video, and then it's like he's got a tie on, and like he's
And-
like wearing a different clothes. The girl's got a totally different shirt on,
And then
and you're like, holy fuck.
imagine you go to film the same scene and you're like, that scene was perfect, but I want you to wear this instead. And it's different now because you're not going to act it the exact same way. Like, there's just a hair off here and there. I wish you could have done it the same way. And that happens. You hear that all the time, like with bloopers. Actors are like, oh, he just said it.
They're
the
trying
same
over
way."
and over, and you're like,
And we were trying to get that back and it didn't happen. So we ended up going with a different scene, but now you don't have to do that. It's like, you have the perfect scene. It's like, and
No,
I
they,
just have-
they had
like
this
this.
one part where the guy opens up this briefcase and it's got like diamonds in it, right? There's like a few diamonds, but then they go and they select an area around like the interior of the briefcase, and then there's like a chat GPT type prompt, and it's like a large pile of diamonds, and then it replaces with this gigantic pile of diamonds, like as if it was there in the first place. And then there's like this part where they literally just they have like this AI that can extend the scene. It's like the woman standing there kind of like looking, right? And then it's like they just like drag the video longer than it actually existed, and it just extends the video where it even kind of zooms in a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then there's one where the guy's looking out the window at his hotel, and then they pull up like a Sora chat GPT type prompt thing, and they're like, city skyline at night, right? And it generates, like Sora style, a city skyline. So it's like as if that's what he's looking at. So it shows him, and then it cuts to the scene where you see like the city, or you see him driving in a car. Like it literally just generated that straight up like Mid-Journey style, but for video.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I guess maybe that's what their point is. It's like Photoshop, but for movies.
Right.
Everyone knows what Photoshop does to pictures, where you still have to have a lot of technical knowledge to know how to make Photoshop do that. This is like, you're just prompting it. I want
Right.
this to happen. So imagine you're making a movie, you film a few scenes, if you even have to do that, but then maybe you want the same character, or I don't know, or maybe you just want to be the actor or whatever. but then everything else, like you could just generate it and then you could edit the stuff. Imagine you could just like, I mean, I could see totally why. What do you think? Tyler Perry didn't have behind the scenes knowledge of all this stuff.
Oh, no, definitely.
We didn't know about it, but I'm sure he was aware of all that shit going on.
He was like, no, I was being told all the time, hold off. Wait till you see what this thing can do.
It seemed a little extreme when we only had seen Sora.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, Sora's pretty cool, but I don't see how it's going to replace an entire studio. But then you start seeing this and you're like, oh.
Also,
yeah.
What Isaiah had shared, where he was like, they had asked him to record his voice, and then they were like, oh, we're going to edit this, but they already have his voice. They don't need him to come back into the studio. And they're like, okay,
they'll just use AI to get the other part that they would have had him re-record.
Exactly. And so, just looking at all those things, this is like 5-10 people's jobs for each scene, for each, piece on a movie or on a set.
Yeah, this is like no joke. It's definitely going to replace, like Latanya was saying, like there's entire groups of people working on a movie that just do the B-roll, and it's like usually just prompt it, and what's cool about it is like, how you can extend stuff, you can edit, you can take pieces out. I think the next level for the music stuff is that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where you'll be able to just be like, okay, that part, extend that little bit, or like, let me take out the hi-hats there. Okay, put something else, put like a guitar solo, and you can kind of get more into the nitty-gritty editing of it. Because once that happens, one person can make everything.
So then you'll be able to take that and then say put video over it of this, whatever, and now you're creating an entire fucking world.
Well, also it's interesting you say that, because with the Suno, you notice it always gives you an image, and sometimes it's kind of random seeming, but a lot of times it has to do with something that you put in there. So it's able to generate two different things based on what you're saying. So imagine being able to describe essentially what you want, and then you get video with it, you get music with it, you get pictures, you get other stuff, like whatever you would want, I suppose. I mean, wow, how much more evidence do we need that we fucking create with words?
Yeah,
like, well, I don't know, or do we really create with words? And it's like, somehow we're able to replace most people's jobs, and then anyone can do that just by using their words now. Like, and it's just an extension of our minds. Wow, interesting.
The words were key.
That's right. No, so I mean, just look at that. There's no such thing as job security anymore. And even that job recruiter was saying the same thing. There's no such thing as job security. Like, people used to go, I mean, when our grandparents were working, they'd go work a job for 40 years, and it was all about, job loyalty, and you're frowned upon if you like go from job to job. But now it's like, even the jobs themselves are letting go of people within 2 years, because they're like, well, we just added all this money into their 401k, but since it's not 4 years, we can just take all that money back. Like, literally, that's
like, there's a time limit. They have to be there for a while before they have to, okay, that's your money now, basically.
Right.
They can just claw it back.
Crazy. That is crazy to me. But I mean, it's not that crazy if you actually think about it. It's here are all these benefits if you come work for us. And then they're like, psych.
So they're taking advantage of the desire to have that long-term point, knowing that they're not really going to have you long-term. So it's just a scam.
Right.
That's the ruthlessness of the system right there.
Yeah. Also, that point that that one guy was making about, oh, and is this something I've been trying to say, where I'm like, I feel like maybe there's a lot of gaslighting, let's put it that way, going on in the system right now about AI taking jobs, because it's like, oh no, it's going to make new jobs. And they always try to use this example of like, well, when the horse came along, people said it would replace, when the car came along, it would replace all this stuff, and people adapted and new jobs were created. And the kid's like, okay, but all of these guys who are the ones laying everybody off right now also happen to be mostly the companies that are all investing and creating the AI.
Yeah.
And they're all of them are saying we're trying to create AGI, which the definition, if you look it up, of artificial general intelligence, is that it's better at most humans at economically valuable tasks. So, and I love the way he said it. So because they were like, well, people are saying it's going to create new jobs and stuff. And he's like, he's like, I don't get that. And that's how I feel. I'm like, yeah, you could just say that, but can you give me examples of what jobs it's going to create? Because
you could be a chief AI officer.
What jobs is, okay, when we say create, we don't, in this context, clearly we don't mean 1,000 people are going to lose their jobs, but one person's going to be able to do that job. Look, that they all could have done, but he's using some new way of doing it. That's not creating a job.
Right.
So you can't mean like, oh, but it's going to make people, it's going to make them better at things. And it's like, right. But then you don't need, like, the movie and the music is a perfect example.
Yeah.
You don't need this 100 people, or I mean, a movie, you probably need a lot more people than in music, I would assume, for a whole movie, you probably have a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then even think about the catering companies that exist, probably primarily, let's say like in Hollywood or somewhere, or around big studios that exist just off of providing the food, the catering to like these movie sets and shit. Like they're gone, and this guy was like, well, the definition of AGI is that it's better at most humans, or maybe it's all humans, but it's better at humans than economically viable tasks, right?
Yeah.
So here's the point. Let's say it replaces some job. Okay, that job's gone. No one can do that anymore, but it creates a new job. Like, in other words, because it replaced that and the technology is developed, it's like this new opportunity opens up that people can do that. And he's like, but wouldn't then somebody take the AI and apply it to doing that?
Yeah.
Because if humans can do it for money, why wouldn't a capitalist be like, maybe I can? Because what would people, okay, in the past, if you wanted to become a billionaire or a millionaire or whatever, you'd be like, okay, everyone wants cars. Let me make a car company. So let me enslave a bunch of people through money and pay them a wage so that they'll make the cars. Because that one capitalist can't make the fucking cars himself.
Right.
It's what I've always said about like the iPhone. It's like Steve Jobs had to enslave lots of people in China for us all to have iPhones. Like, let's not pretend like he's a good guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy particularly. He's just not like, oh, he's just so amazing. And it's like, well, literally, we had to enslave people. Otherwise, now imagine you think, well, what if everybody in the world was as smart as Steve Jobs? Well, then how could Steve Jobs create an iPhone?
No.
Because who else is now? Maybe everyone's so smart they work together and like, hey, we could put a little bit of effort and make these great things and stuff. But now if you have robots and you have these manufacturing systems and AI, you could literally put your idea into words and then have robots and AI and machines go to work creating it. You don't need to enslave people. But guess what?
And they're saying with these robots that there's going to be more than there are iPhones in the world. There's going to be more robots.
Well, and the robots will be able to create more robots.
Yeah.
But here's my point. So what are those people going to do for work? So I'm not saying enslaving them was per se bad in the sense of right now people need to work. They need money. Okay. So we can call it slavery. At the same time, it's also their survival. So what happens when they don't have a job anymore?
Yeah.
Like they're fucked. Okay. So then this new opportunity opens up. But then wouldn't another capitalist or maybe the same one or somebody else come along and be like, hey, look at all these people over here doing this. I bet I can make all the money that they're making and I won't have to pay them. Like, what do you think Uber's trying to do right now?
Right. Yeah.
Don't you think they're just like, as soon as we can get these self-driving cars and it's like accepted and there's not as much risk as a human driver, all the I's are dotted and so forth, T's are crossed. Don't you think they're just going to start buying up their own fleets of self-driving cars? I mean, I think Tesla's probably trying to replace Uber, I would guess. I mean, we'll see how that goes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my point is they're at least trying to do that. Yeah. So why wouldn't they then apply the AGI to any particular thing? So this new thing opens up. Aren't they going to try to advance the AI to be able to do that or just apply it to that? Like, I never would have thought it could do the music in any time soon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I still don't understand how it can do it. Like it does. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
Dude, now remember when we watched that video of the video games, like, you're going to go into a video game and it's going to be able to interact with you where all the NPCs have they're creating dialogue specifically for you. And it's going to know based on like your pupil dilation and the way that you're sweating and all that, like how engaged you are. And like, oh, you're really excited. Oh, that's maybe a little bit too much excitement for you. That's going to maybe cause you to log off or it's too scary. But how can I get you to like, just just hit the line where it's like, yeah, that's good. And then, oh, now you get this other experience. Now you got this other feeling. With the music now, I can see how they can definitely guide your emotions, especially with the music. Like, think about how much music plays a role in a movie. You know, where like you're
Oh,
in
yeah.
a scene and the scene's supposed to be scary, and it's like, oh, you got the scary music. But the scene's supposed to be like loving and like it's like, oh, it's calming. It seems exciting, and like the music is exciting. Like how much that drives the emotion behind the movie that you're watching, the scene that you're watching. And like, okay, now that that's there and as good as it is right now, we know it can do that. We know it can just like cause you to feel like, and even with whatever visual that they're going to give you, the visual is good enough right now. Whatever visual they're going to give you, it's like, wow, I could see how, even just like when you watch a movie, and some movies are long as fuck, you know, like Lord of the Rings or whatever. But how many people went to the theaters to watch all the Lord of the Rings? How many people went to theaters to watch all the Harry Potters, like all these long movies that, and they're just like the whole time, like, wow. I remember, do you remember like when movies used to have intermissions? Do you remember this? Like literally you'd be watching a movie.
Maybe like a super long one. I don't
It'd be like
remember.
one, this would be like early 2000s, I would think, right? Somewhere around there. And they would put an intermission into the movie, like, hey, if you gotta go pee, now is the time, right? But people would go and then come back and finish the fucking movie. It's like a play, you know, like you'd go and you come back. And the point is, it's like now they're able to do that with AI, where and here's the interesting thing. They're saying with the amount of robots that they're going to have, labor is basically going to be free. And I find that really interesting because I see the point of, yeah, we can get all these robots to do this thing, but you still have to pay for electricity. And there's going to be a lot more electricity usage in the world. And you still have to have the servers to run all these, you know, robots. And that's why.
I'm giving you background music.
Thank you. That's
Just keep
why.
going.
I thought I hit the fucking play
Like,
button.
keep going.
That's
Let's go.
why, you know, Bill Gates and whoever else are teaming up to make the $50 billion project of just having servers and GPUs and all this stuff so that they can create the conditions for, oh yeah, you will just be stuck in the metaverse because we can entertain you all fucking day. We can get the robots to go all fucking day. And
Because they literally have that thing about blocking out the sun.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, have you seen that? Have we not all seen the Matrix recently?
Really?
Oh, real quick. Let me ask you guys, how did you feel when Drake was talking with the music? Maybe it was a little
Oh.
distracting. But like, I wish I had done it earlier because you were
Needed the
going in
EQ,
so
just
much, man.
EQ a little bit modified, but my definitely.
But I was just trying to prove a point. Like, all I
Yeah.
did was just go into Suno real quick and type in like epic, uplifting, orchestral, cinematic
Yeah.
adventure music, and then it's like
Yeah.
you just put that in the background of you talking, and it sounds so much more like, yeah.
It's honestly like, okay, you can see it. It's really clear now of the conditions are there. And it may not happen necessarily to you. Maybe you're like, oh no, I would never go into a metaverse. Okay, fine. But if you have children, they're fucking screwed because they don't have that same discernment. They don't have, well, I'm going to teach my kid. That's how kids rebel. Like you've seen like all the parents are like, no, you should never drink. You should never smoke. You should never do. And then what do their kids do? They end up being rebellious towards their parents.
They don't explain why.
Exactly. It's just like we were talking the other day about how parents will like be shocked when you know about sex or something. You know, like how parents are like, oh, you know about that. It's like you didn't explain it. You didn't share how this works or anything. And now you're shocked. Like when were you going to explain this? What, like, you know, like when were you going to take responsibility for this point? And now, like, now I had to go learn it from whomever, right? Or from the screen, or, you know, like the school kids, whatever it is. And it's done in a way where it's like, that's not best, but you didn't want to take responsibility for that point anyway. So now what? Right? Anyway.
The best word for this is stupor. That's the
Stupor.
word that popped up for me. So
Mm.
fucking stupor. That's
Yeah.
parents are trapped in and unintentionally literally creating that and like automating that into the world that then enslaves their kids even worse.
You
And
know,
it's like this progressive, it's like that spiral we were talking about earlier, the death spiral.
yeah, it reminds me of the point of like how, you know, you sent that effective altruism, that point of effective altruism, where it's like all these AI guys are trying to control, or they're not even AI guys. They're people who are aware of the AI advancements, and they're like, well, you shouldn't be able to control to have this AGI or to have these sort of chips or whatever, because then it could cause things to spiral out of control. We don't know the effects of AI and AGI yet, and so they're trying to like control even governments by having basically this one term of like, okay, you're not allowed to do this, and it's really vague. Like if it hurts people in some way, you know, or it hurts the economy in some way, then you can't do this. And it's sort of like you know, when the WHO rolled out uh the World Health Organization, they're saying, well, if there's a pandemic, then we are the ones who will lock you down and we'll define what a pandemic is. It's like, that's a little very vague. And I don't agree with that. And nobody's electing you. And so you're basically calling yourself dictator of the world, right? And there's these people with the technology that they want to do the same thing. They want to say like, well, you know, and they're saying it from like an quote unquote altruistic, you know, starting point of like, well, it's for the better of humanity. It's just like that WHO, right? But it's like really like you're crowning yourself king of the world, essentially, right? And I, I guess I'm bringing up this point in the context of that it's assuming people are dumb. They're not going to be able um, to change. They're not going to be able to be educated. They're not going to be able to like work together. None of that stuff. And that's how we have what we have right now with like Iran and Israel. And I just found it really fascinating. Like that guy, Scott Ritter, we've been talking about him for like a little while now. And he's the only one that I've heard say this, that the Iranian attack on the dome was successful. He's the only person of all the different interviews that I've heard. Even like, I don't know if you saw Patrick Bet-David went on to you know, Piers Morgan, and he was like, I don't know what they're trying to do. Like, bro, he doesn't know.
I also think
Like,
Patrick Bet-David has fucking dyslexia or some shit, man. You hear him in some of his interviews, I'm like, I think he overcompensates for having. Dude,
Probably,
dude,
yeah, but also allegedly probably, but he also just is at the end of the day just supporting the system. But what were you
yeah,
gonna say?
exactly. Yeah,
it's obvious. That's that much is obvious. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But no, just
System slaves.
the point
System
of like,
slaves.
I'm really fascinated by what Scott Ritter was saying, especially with his background in dismantling the weapons program in the Soviet Union, in Palestine, in like all these different places. Like he is the foremost expert on this. And his take is, yeah, that was a very successful campaign that they just did, where they announced, first off, they announced we are going to attack, which gives you time to remove any assets that you have that you don't want destroyed. So just putting it out there for you. Listen, we're gonna attack. I'm gonna show you my attack. So if there's anything you don't want to be a part of this attack, remove it now. Okay, good, cool. Then they send over their attack, and it was literally. I also love the breakdown that he gave of financially. Iran spent, you know, tens of millions, and to fend off the attack, Israel and the US spent billions. Like, because it's like, oh, the missiles and the drones and everything that Iran was sending was like, he said they were decades old. They're like 12 years old, all this stuff. And so it's like, it's not really costing them much to do this stuff.
They figured out a way to send a bunch of drones and missiles to overwhelm the system, to be like, oh, we need to like shoot up these things. And then by the time they're focusing on that, then they can send the one they really want in and hit the target they want. Because you only need to have one hit the target you're trying to hit.
And the crazy thing is that this is supposedly the most controlled airspace in the world, the most
Right.
defended airspace in the world, where they have all the technologies there.
Did you guys read? You've read Diamond Age?
Yeah.
Do you remember like it's been a long time since I read it, but I remember there was like it was like kind of geographical divisions between sections, and then there would be like drone swarms that would like
Yeah.
kind of protect. It's been a long time since I read it, but it was like
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
there were like drone swarms that would sort of like control the boundaries between the different regions and so forth.
right.
But you know, I was thinking about with the Iran thing just now. It's like it's sort of kind of like Suno in a way, where it's like okay, now anybody like you don't okay now that I can compete with the $1 million, $100 million studios.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
In other words, it's not economically viable for them to run their studio anymore. Maybe I can't get quite as good, almost, but it's good enough. It's like with
Just
their
that
thing,
threshold.
you know, like they were able to, you know. So it's all anybody who's like, oh, it's a total failure. You're just listening to propaganda.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Iran decimated Israel, but here's the thing. I was following it the day it was happening. Like I heard it was going to happen. I happened to see, oh man, anyways, it doesn't matter. But I saw it like as it was occurring, right? And then the videos start coming out, and all they're showing is like in the sky, little explosions happening. See, look, Israel's intercepting at their Iron Dome. And Maya was here, and I was like, doesn't it kind of seem like a big advertisement for the Iron Dome of like, see, look, when we give them money, look, they can protect themselves. It kind of seemed like that's what was going on. So I'm like, I wonder what's really happening here. But did you see any video? Well, I don't know if you guys how you're paying attention that day. I didn't see any video of anything other than just that.
Yeah.
Then later, as I'm digging into it more, then I'm seeing the videos where they're showing like here's where the first one's burst. They're defending it, right? And then here's the one that gets through, and then there's the explosion on the ground. They weren't showing that in all the news clips and all that stuff. They weren't showing the part where the one hits the ground.
Right.
So they framed the perception online of like, see, total failure. And when you say it'd be like if I threw some sand in your face, and then while you're blocking the sand, I throw a dagger in your chest.
Yeah.
You're like, I blocked 99.9% of all of the objects you threw at me.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about the one that actually I was trying to get through? Like,
Yeah.
so am I defending Iran? Like, it's all fucked. Like, and then now we have these attacks back from Israel onto Iran in Iraq and all these different places where it's like suddenly these explosions are happening. And so I think what's going on is like Israel, like Scott Ritter was saying, Iran was like, hey, we can still get through. And if you think you're safe and you're going to fuck around with us, we can still hit you. And yeah, you can tell the world that you defended it, but you know what we did. You know what actually got through and hit that airbase and left a big crater there. That can happen again, and I didn't have to, and I can outspend you. It's like an arms race.
Yeah,
I could just bankrupt by continuing to do this all day long if you need me to.
It was interesting though, because they were talking about how Benjamin Netanyahu, he like needs to keep flexing basically, but because if he backs down, apparently, I mean, with me,
Oh no, he's totally under like corruption investigations and all this.
Right?
Stuff.
Yeah, because if he doesn't
That's
do
been
it,
known for a
there's
while.
there's no alternative for him.
Yeah.
But my point was now you see the stuff happening within Iran. There was an explosion in Iraq, and so Israel's just doing it back, like, aha, but we can also get you too. Like, you know, so it's like just this fucking game they're playing. It's chess, you know.
Dude, it reminds me of that article on the Destiny article on the greatest teacher in the world, George Bush. Like at that time and point, that was like, you know, the greatest teacher in the world was George Bush and what he was representing. Now it's like, wow.
It's like showing you the lessons, not teaching you an information, but actually showing you the lessons and showing you what we're all participating in on the world stage. And like that's you know, that thing we played at the beginning, right? I just want to put the picture back up real quick, okay? Because I want to make a point here. Let me just real quick. Let me find it.
Yeah,
where's my Firefox?
It's interesting, like where we're at in war right now too, because it's like warfare it's drone warfare now. Where
you
like
see
you
it?
can see, yeah, I can see it. You can see like from the drones, you can see from body camera footage, you can see from like and now they even have AI that like strategizes, because you were making the point of with Iran, it's like, hey, it's kind of like Suno, but now they literally have AI that can strategize. Okay, so here's where their guys are. These are the positions. So now what's the best strategy for us militarily?
hold on, hold that. We'll come back to it. Let me just make this point, then I'll take this down because I have some points we can add about what you're saying there.
Okay.
The reason I put this picture up, which is AI generated, obviously, is like, well, let me ask you, what do you guys see when you see this picture?
The eyes glowing. That's crazy.
Okay, but what does it mean
It
to
looks
you?
it looks like it looks kind of like a demonic and exciting at the same time. Gives me kind of like a possessed vibes, but also it's just very unique. I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, so I put equal in one, right? And
Yeah.
the point here is you become what you allow. Equal and one. You become equal to and one with what you accept and what you allow. This is the point I'm making here. Okay. This kid represents what we're doing to everything on the planet, every person who's on the short end of the fucking system. And what you're seeing in what you saw on October 7th with Hamas, Palestine, whatever, striking back at Israel, and it's like, hey, we can come and fuck with you. And then even if you respond, you're gonna look like the asshole. Because not a lot of people are waking up like they kind of are the asshole too, right? And then you're looking at Iran. Aaron's like, you can't fuck with us. And now all the world, a lot of people, anyways, are like, maybe Iran's got some good points here. And you're like, people buying into like, are they like on the side of them now? Like, what is going on here, right? But everything that we're accepting and allowing to go on in the system, while we just continue just trying to survive and just go through the motions and just keep living. And that's all I care about is just staying alive and just living my life and being here. But we're allowing this system to grow. Like that picture represents the one who's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And now I've got AI and now I've got technology and I can build drones and I can 3D print shit and I can fuck shit up. And yeah, maybe I don't have a nuclear bomb. Right? I'm speaking for this hypothetical person just in case anyone's aware, right? Maybe they don't have the nuclear bomb. Maybe Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, but they're like, do we need them? We can fucking they can bankrupt Israel by just continuing to send drones, swarms of fucking, I don't even know how much their drones cost, probably not that much.
Yeah.
And missiles and just barrage them and everything. It's like, what are you going to do about it? What can Israel do at this point other than just fucking nuke them? The only option Israel has at this point, because how does this de escalate in any other way? Because clearly, I really thought, okay, Iran did its little thing. Israel, everybody says, oh, you idiots, you didn't do shit. You suck, whether it was successful or not. And Iran said, okay, we're done. We completed our retaliation. We're good. 2 days later, explosions in Iran, in Iraq, and stuff. Okay, Israel's retaliating. Why couldn't they just be like, all right, we're done?
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, like we have to win. We have to fight. And somebody's making this point, like the whole existence of Israel has always been they're at war. They're always in conflict. And it's like, that's all I know. I got to fight. I got to keep fighting. I got to keep fighting. Right. And it's not about blaming Israel. Like, oh, well, if Israel didn't exist, all this would go away. No, they're just the embodiment of the system.
Yeah.
And all the other people that they're quote fighting is the embodiment of the ones who are on the short end of the stick and are not benefiting from the system equally, not getting all of the wonderful things the system can provide. And it's like, dude, we have all this amazing technology. Why can't we just use it in a, we were talking last night and he was like, what if somebody makes an AI that connects all these, like the Suno and the Sora and all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that would be cool. They're kind of working on it. It's called agents, but it's something like that. And he's like, why don't all these companies just like work together?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, good question. I said, because like the system is competitive and everyone just wants to win. And that's why they're even doing it in the first place. And I was like, we could just take this technology and have some fucking amazing stuff. But we have to then also value everyone equally, because if we don't, all we're doing is creating more of like that picture of that kid I showed.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we can make some amazing stuff, but if our starting point is some people are less equal than others, and so my point about the equal in one is like, somebody was joking about it on my Facebook of like, almost like, oh, like you're going to become equal in one no matter what, like you have to, or else we're going to make you do it. So it's like, no one's going to make anybody do anything, but it's like a principle. If I drop this thing right here, what's going to happen? If I'm like, hey, this is going to fall, it's like, am I threatening you? Or I'm like, when I let go, it's gonna fall. It's like, no, that's the principle of how things operate. We will all become equal and one. So the whole thing with Gaza is like, if you think about it, they're like super technologically advanced Israel in terms of how they patrol that area, keep it under lockdown and everything. It's just like it's like the testing out of the system of what it wants to do with everybody. Do you see what I'm saying? So someone's like, oh, you just fear mongering, something's so scary. And it's like, who was it? One of you, I think maybe Mitch or somebody earlier was like, why aren't people panicking, right?
Yeah.
It's because they're not fucking paying attention. And it not that panic would help, but
Yeah.
if you're not doing anything about it and you're aware of it, the only option would be to panic. And so the fact that people aren't panicking
Yeah.
is
Right.
that they're not aware
Shows
of
you how
it.
inundated there.
They're just suppressing it. And it's like, if you're, so that's why I like taking all this information that the system gives us, like the algorithms, and then saying like, how can we put this into context and show like what's really going on here, And
Yeah.
you guys saw that the new Boston Dynamics robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looked creepy to me. Like that's the way it stands up, like from flat on the ground to like the legs come
Rick
up.
is finally creeped out by the robots.
Well, it's kind of genius actually, because it's like, okay, we're making humanoid robots, so they're limited to being human, right?
Right.
No,
Right.
like this thing literally puts its legs backwards, stands up, and then rotates its legs. Like you can like, you're standing like this, here's your feet, and you can
Yeah.
rotate your feet like that. This thing
Yeah.
literally rotates it all the way backward, its hips,
Yeah.
and then just starts walking backwards, and its torso rotates. Now it's walking forwards. Like,
Straight like droids from fucking Star
it's
Wars
like
or
going
something.
beyond what the humanoid form can do.
It's crazy.
It'll be like a spider soon. God damn. Yeah. So Cameron, the other day on one of the calls, you said that stat that in our lifetime there's predicted to be more robots than there are smartphones or iPhones, whichever one. Either way, a fuckload of robots. And yesterday at our clubhouse, we were really pushing this point. We were talking about self-honesty. It was really cool. It was at our home, smaller group. And at the end, right, came around for me to share, and I was like, you could tell everyone in the group was like sharing to the best of their ability. And I was like, look, this is all good. Here's the other part of self-honesty, though, is being really fucking brutally honest about what's going on in the world. And I opened up that whole point,
That's cool.
and it was so cool because you could see pretty much everyone in there was like, oh yeah, wow, I've been suppressing this. And we had some people like viscerally fucking like reacted really hard to it because I was going in on it, and then Pedro also was giving his point, and it was like it was so potent, and it just we went on for like another hour longer than expected, and it was so cool because there was a new guy, and he's like, okay, so you guys talking about politics, like, what does that actually look like then to get involved with the politics piece? And it was like you can see how all of this stuff is pushing people. So as long as we keep moving and walking equal to it, it's this perfect storm coming together. But the only way that happens is by us, like we do our clubhouse religiously. It's like always, like once a month we do the thing here. And when it's like for the self-perfecters in this group, right? To be able to just stand and say what people need to hear, not what they want to hear, because the temptation is, I got to say it in a way that they need to. And yes, you have to look at it, right? If you just come straight out and go, you guys, we got to do this, or the droids are going to fucking kill us. And
you have to sell it, but if you only go on the side of what they want to hear, you'll never get to that point ever. So there's a balance, obviously.
And you could tell there's one person there in particular who was so uncomfortable with it. And Pedro was like really sitting in this point of like, you guys, like literally, this is coming for our kids. This is coming for us. And he was sitting in it, and she was really like, it's like, Pedro, move on. And Pedro's like, no, we need to sit here and sit in this. And it was like this really cool collective moment where we're all like, okay, now, and then we can move forward, because it reminded me of almost like if someone were to, let's say you got a diagnosis for cancer or something, and you're like, yeah, but just move on, like just this is enough, just move on, just give me the answer, give me the fucking chemo, give me the thing. It's like, no, that's not going to solve it at the root. Part of getting to the root is us sitting here in this moment of self-honesty, and all of us collectively like agreeing to take responsibility for what's going on here and pushing the next point of responsibility within each person, then holding him to that. And then we stayed up till fucking 4 a.m. talking. It was no, not. It was like kind of the after party after, and it was so cool because we had there were two people in particular, each like working through their points that were simultaneous, like related to family, kind of letting go of their past, embracing this next level. And both of them had the same thing. They're like, I know I can't go back to who I was. I know I can't go back to my old programming. Like they know that they could, but they're like, no, like I'm in too deep. I can't unsee this, but I don't know exactly what the future looks like. And both of them had the same point of like a fear of this like darkness because they don't see exactly how the steps are going to be. And I'm like, oh yeah, shit. I guess I live in this all day, every day. So I kind of forgot what it's like to just step beyond it. And it's like, as you take the steps, you're creating it. Like you're fucking creating the thing. It's not pre-programmed. You are becoming the programmer that's creating the thing when you're really walking this process full on. And sure, it can be scary, but it's like,
Okay, so I want to add some points that it says really cool, like the way you broke that down, how people were going through that, because it shows how the fear comes from the inequality. It's like, well, I don't want to look at this because fuck, I mean, how am I'm not equal to doing anything about it. It's because I don't have this.
Yeah.
But then what's the point? Then you said, well, I'm living this all the time, so it makes sense. I don't get scared talking about it because we're talking about the solution. That person can't see the solution yet. That's the education part that has to come after the person makes the decision. Okay, I want to solve this problem, which requires the self-honesty. And I was having a conversation with someone last week who's in sales, like their whole life kind of has been like they're a salesperson, right? And I was explaining to them, like, you're a very positive person. It comes naturally to you because of your pre-programming. I said, and that's how business and the world and government works. It's all about positivity. Yes, they use negativity to show you there's a problem, but it's always about everything is perfect, everything is good. And I'm saying this also for those in the group to really look at yourself self-honestly. If you're having a complaint about somebody else or the group or the mission or whatever, take it back to self and ask, what can I actually do more? Because isn't it interesting how we'll sit there and be negative about, well, why isn't this happening better in the group or this or that or whatever? Okay, somebody has some negative thing. Why aren't you having that same fucking energy about the war in Ukraine, the fucking drones in fucking Iran? Why are you having that same energy about the fucking economy collapsing, about AI coming and fucking stealing everybody's shit and their jobs and everything? Take your energy and fucking express it there. Don't turn it inwards on the only group that's making a fucking difference or even attempting to make a fucking difference. Okay. So that doesn't mean you can't, in self-honesty, give feedback to somebody of like, hey, you could do something better here. But most of the time it's like a point of, it's like someone going to one of your clubhouses, let's say, okay, or any clubhouse, and being like, I don't know, man, they're just kind of like boring. You guys always talk about the same thing. And it's like, when was the last time you criticized the fucking system as it is? And you looked at the points, like that person is actually just fucking cipher and they don't realize it. They're just, it's like, hey, can it get better? Absolutely. And the cool thing is, like, imagine if you went to a self-perfected meeting or the event or something, and the only music you could listen to is I'm in the club drinking bottles full of blah blah blah, that kind of shit, right? Do you want to hear that? Right? But now look, we can potentially make music where you can have cool stuff, and it's versus you're like, well, the only songs we're going to listen to is self-honesty, so it's going to be me on my fucking drums going self-honesty
drum circle.
Like, you don't want to hear that. I could see if that's all we had and someone came and it's just like me on a fucking drum going self-honesty, people would be like, it's kind of gay and boring. And you know what I mean? Like, can you like not, I would okay, that's fine. We can have criticism. I get it. But now all the system is giving us all these tools. Like pretty soon here, we're going to be able to make some fucking cool videos and like document all kinds of stuff. Like, yeah, we could have been doing that, but people would have always criticized it and been like, it's not good enough because it's not the, why don't you guys have the music studios like fucking Miramax and all this other
okay, shit, motherfucker, then help us make it happen.
Right. So I'm saying instead,
help us figure it out.
Well, what's crazy about it is we don't have to do all that. We can literally just keep pushing one-on-one. Share the point and get to yourself to a point where you can share the negativity, because the problem is when you're in business, you have to always be positive. Everything's always great. No matter what negative thing, it's like, no, it's actually good. Like, we have plenty of jobs happening in the economy. We're creating jobs left and right. And everyone's like, but if you look at it self-honestly, These are people working 4 or 5 jobs,
Right.
and they're temporary work, and they're 1099 shit, and they're not like this. So, but
They're barely
we're better than
surviving.
Trump because we've had more jobs than ever, and it's like you're lying. Like we have more people in the workforce, yeah, because women are putting their kids in daycare and going off to fucking work, and then they're depressed and shit, and like. And no, it's not because of that. It's like we need more mental health for transgenders and this and that. And it's always trying to be positive about it instead of looking at the actual negative. And so this group is not about just positivity. You want just positivity, go fucking jerk off to Ramtha or Basher or whatever the fuck the guy's name is, or Abraham Hicks or whatever. But what the moment you bring up anything negative, what are they going to say?
Oh
That's-
no, you can't say that. No,
Yeah, don't do that. Don't
you're
focus
focused
on
on the wrong
You-
thing.
don't
You'll give
focus
your
on it.
power to it.
Yeah.
Stop focusing on it.
So go back to the point. Equal and one. What is actually negative that's we're accepting and allowing is what we're going to become. If there's one child starving in this system, guess what? We're all going to fucking starve.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're all going to starve.
Right? Because it's not resolved. It's not
Creating that.
resolved.
Because what is creating that child starving?
The
A
that we
system of
participate in.
inequality, a system of
Right.
fucking greater than less.
Okay, so in other words, okay, why do people have trouble finding a job? Because it's competitive, right? And so now more and more as AI comes online, isn't it going to be harder to get a job? Because people are like, well, I don't need to hire you. I could just fucking do it myself with the
Yeah.
AI, right? So because of the idea of just trying to make money and profit only, there are people who are like, I want to become a billionaire by making sure no one ever can make music for profit ever again. And I'm going to be the only one that ever does it. And I'm just going to have, like, I'm not even going to be the one making money from making music. You want to make music at the push of a button. I have the platform. I have the AI. I have the model. You're basically using my model. So now I'm the only one that can ever make money from it because I can just give you the technology at your fingertips. You don't own it. You don't even probably own the music actually, because the copyright hasn't really been settled yet of how that ownership actually works. Maybe actually no one will own it, but you'll be happy because you have the music you want, but no one has a fucking job. So what are you going to do?
Right.
So if there's no self-honesty about that, it's just going to grow. And so everything's going to be controlled and controlled and controlled and controlled. And the side that's on the losing side of that is only going to grow and grow and grow. And if you're not already at that high position, what do you think are the fucking odds you're going to be there when the dust settles?
Right. You're not programmed for, you would have already fucking been there.
So it's like, stop complaining about the negative shit that you see as like, why can't things happen faster on the solution side? Use that energy and transform it within yourself of like, I need to go fucking beast mode, God mode, like telling people the fucking truth and not fearing the consequences, because like the song says, fear is just a waterfall. Dude, it's so cool. My kids are coming up to me. Hey, Cameron, can we listen to some music? I'm like, yeah, what do you want to listen to? Can you do that Fear is a Waterfall? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I put it on and the kids are like singing the lyrics and stuff. I'm like, that's so cool, man.
That is really cool.
It's really cool. Like they'll ask to listen to it. And then Kenny will be like, do the Love is a Wave one. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. And they're like, they know the lyrics. And like, it just shows how powerful sound is and music and everything. And so it's like, well, like imagine back in the day if someone was like, well, why would I come work for you? You don't even have like an office. But now like anybody can just fucking like get like a subscription to what is it, like, you know, any like
we
office.
work, yeah.
So like is it impressive if you meet someone at their office now?
No.
So
No.
like all the things that you thought you need as image to fucking make a difference, it's all at your fingertips now.
Yeah.
So but at the end of the day, even if you have all that stuff, who are you going to be within it?
Right. It's like you said earlier, the real people want real people. Like that is the ultimate frame, the ultimate way. It's like how we get anyone to our clubhouse. I mean, we have the most quote unquote random assortment of people that were at our clubhouse at our home yesterday. And there's like a little filter we have, right, for someone to actually come out here. There's, you know, certain things that we're looking for because they're going to be around our kid and everything. But it is so cool because the way you get through to them is being fucking real with them.
You know, we were talking about earlier how the only way that you'll be able, like, there's a limited time here of being able to move up in the system, and after that, it's like you're locked in.
We are the bridge.
You'll be able to move is through like some chaos, some chaotic event, and the chaotic event is going to have to be something that is even worse than war. And I'm saying that from the perspective of like, because even within war, who actually benefits from that? It's the arms manufacturers. You know, those are the ones who actually benefit because they're like, yeah,
And is it even a real benefit, you know?
but they're the ones who are capitalizing on it, is what I mean to
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to be able to capitalize on that. That's already taken. So the chaotic event that I don't know what you might be thinking of, it's going to be something that's unexpected.
Yeah, the point of capitalizing on it in the past that Andrew Tate gave was like maybe the king goes to war and you start fighting and you're brave and you become a knight and then they give you some land because you did something good in battle. It's like that's not even a possibility.
It's
Like
not
you
a
can't
thing
use
anymore.
that to advance into the next level, you know? And
Right.
like in the past, let's say there's a war and someone's like, Aristotle Onassis, now there's all these extra Navy ships and I can put them to work and, all this stuff. Like
Right.
that's not going to happen anymore because it's all going to be locked down. It's all drones and it's all fucking AI and everything. And like there's no, it's so fucked that that's how people think about it. It's like, hey, when the economy goes bad, I make more money,
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so fuck everybody else, I suppose,
Yeah.
and like, you're going to do what's actually best.
It's basically working off the spoils of war, right? And the unfortunate thing is there are no more spoils. It's like they're fucking just destroying everything, and they're being very efficient about it. And it's it ties really nicely with like what that Dr. K was saying about how mentally ill people, the men who take their lives, are not necessarily what is considered mentally ill. They're not the ones who are, psychotic or like they have this chronic depression or whatever. He's like the men who take their own lives these days, the overwhelming, I guess, majority of them are really just like they're normal people. They're normal people who they experience like they have 5 minutes. Right, sorry, 5 minutes.
Jake's reading the chat.
I'm reading the chat. Got it.
Yeah, like they have no actual purpose. They don't have anything. They can't make money. Their actual life sucks. And so he's like showing like it's not that to justify it makes sense to kill yourself. It's just the system is putting people in this position. And he's like, oh, you just work hard. Like we are talking about the Andrew Tate thing. It's not the reality of it, dude. It's not about working hard because some fucking rice farmer in Vietnam works fucking hard every day.
Yeah.
They're never, ever, ever going to benefit in any tremendous way. In fact, all that's going to happen is some company like Monsanto is going to come in there and genetically engineer the rice and put fucking robots in the field, and that guy's fucked. So it's not hard work. It's a system. Only a system can support everybody. The system it's not about we're the slaves of it, because that's what's happening right now. It's not like, oh, praise the system. It's just a system is like a way of doing things repeatedly so that you don't have to think about it because it's always done that way. Just like you brush your teeth twice a day or whatever, right? That's a system. You don't have to think, oh, should I have brushed my teeth this month? Like you just do it every day at a certain time, right?
Yeah.
So the system should be with all the fucking AI and all the technology and all the robots, at least very soon, we should have no excuse that everybody can have what they need. But it's not going to happen automatically just because we have the technology, because everyone's doing it from the starting point of, no, I just want to own it and control it and make money from it. Not, I actually want to all work together and be like, dude, I mean, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, we could all have amazing lives and just make it so that everybody can really start living for real. It's like it's actually what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Let's just say deep down.
I wanted to make this point of like what you're saying, like the guys who take their lives, they feel useless, and then they look out on the world and they feel hopeless about like changing their situation. And there's other factors as well, but there is a tremendous opportunity within that. Like looking at the opportunity of, okay, it's getting to that point where, yeah, it will be really locked down of like wherever you're at, that's where you're stuck at economically, right? And so the opportunity here is, well, you could move up because there are so many people who feel this hopelessness, this uselessness within their lives. And there are so many people, like what's popular today are the lots of videos online of guys talking about their problems, about how they've never.
Like, I'm done with the dating market. Fuck it.
Exactly.
I'm done with all this. I'm done with
Exactly.
the system. I'm done playing the game.
Exactly. They've given up. And so you're seeing like, okay, that's really popular. That's what it is. that's what people are experiencing, and they have no hope. And there is this, like, Mitch, we were talking about, like, the give up culture, right?
Yeah.
It's like there is this give up culture where people have just given up, and you see it all the time, not just in, like, in, okay, well, I give up, and so I'm gonna take my own life, but also in, I give up and I'm just not going to talk to this person. I'm not going to try anymore. I'm not going to try to date. I'm not going to try to have kids. I'm not going to try to make money. I'm not going to try. Like, they gave up.
It's like they actually lock themselves out first because it's like a decision of the giving up.
Well, hold on. It's that's still blame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They should give up. They should give up. Israel should give up. Iran should give up. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
give up. Like, quit fucking playing this game. If everybody would now, I understand what you're saying, which is like, well, I don't want to work anymore. No, it's because there's no point to play that game. Because even if I do everything right, I'm still fucked. Like, Mitch, if you hadn't met us,
right,
and you were still doing your drop shipping and all this stuff, what would you be thinking, right? Or whatever it is you were doing. What would you be thinking right now? Like, I gotta fucking
the days are numbered. Yeah.
Next thing, I gotta change and I gotta adapt and I gotta get this AI thing in here. But everyone's thinking that.
Mm-hmm. And then
it's like,
yeah,
it's like these guys. I see them. I'm still friends with some on Facebook, and they're like doing all this copywriting shit. I'm like, dude, every time you post your copywriting stuff on Facebook, some AI is fucking learning what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be able to reproduce at least as good as what you're doing for a billionth of a fraction of what you're getting paid to do it. So your fucking days are numbered and you don't realize it. And it's like, well, I'll pivot to this or I'll pivot to that. And it's like, think about the Bitcoin thing. Like, apparently it was crashing. I don't follow it, but somebody was saying it's crashing. It's like, because like Israel was striking at Iran. I'm like, so even that shit, how is that affected by these countries going to war? And like, you don't control it. Like, it's not real. It's all fucking imaginary. So if we're going to give up, like, you should give up hope. You should become hopeless. Hopelessness is not an emotion. The problem is they're participating in emotion. They're not actually giving up hope. They're just fucking participating in their emotions of feeling despair. That's not a solution. And I'm not blaming them. They have not been educated on what the fucking solution is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said, Drake, is the perfect point. It's like, that's the opportunity. The opportunity is to go and support people to see what is the answer, because the only other option is they're going to try to find their hope somewhere when they just need to stop participating in hope, because their hope will come in the form of God or an AI girlfriend or something else that they'll give them the emotions that they're looking for. They're just throwing a tantrum and they're like, well, I want the system, give me what I want. It's like, why do you deserve it? It's like, why won't God put me in heaven? Why do you deserve to be in heaven? What have you ever fucking done to deserve it? Like, this is the opportunity to have heaven right now. We have to create it. Just like the people in our group, myself included, everybody, we don't have a right to fucking complain about what anything is if we're not going all the way out to create it ourselves. We have to go into that mode of like, we're here to fucking create, because what you're seeing in the world right now is what we're all also creating right now. And that's my point about equal and one. It's not a threat. It's you are creating this. We have to create something else.
I just want to wrap on this point, because I was watching something and they made this really good point of like, we're experiencing a phase shift, right? Where, previously it was like there's ice and you can skate on the ice, right? But with a 1 degree change of temperature, that ice becomes water. And now you can no longer skate. Now you've got to swim. If you're going to survive, you got to swim. And so everybody is just going from skating to swimming, and they don't know how to swim. And so the opportunity is really this, like, we can teach everyone how to swim.
Right. Because if they don't have the tool, then when it comes time to swim and they don't know how to swim, what are they going to be focused on?
Trying to survive. They're going to drown.
Skating or
Just
hoping
not to drown.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not creating.
Right.
Like, we're not going to have a world where AI suddenly enables everybody to become these amazing creators.
Right.
Because you're just going to be focused on trying not to die, trying to survive. You see, the ones of us who know the truth are the ones who have to stand up now and support those to see it. And that can only be done through education. Because everything at the system, it's so cool. Because think about this. Think about the music producer who can put some shitty fucking pop song about leaving your boyfriend and how they betrayed you and all this bullshit. I can make an equally good pop song about let go of fear, just walk through it.
Yeah.
So that music producer can't fucking, I can compete with him now, compete in a loose sense of the word. Like for, I can, it's like they now have to deal with that. So
Yeah.
the system itself is like out there saying, just survive, just survive, just survive. And we have the opportunity to stand up equally and be like, hey, we are equal to this system. We know we're creating it, but you don't have to survive. You can live. We can live together, but we have to create those conditions.
Yeah.
And now the system, it's like we're equalizing ourselves to it. And that's part of walking the process, is looking at how that system is inside of you and then directing it within here as your primary focus point, and then using the honest feedback of, am I having an effect and an influence on other people? Because the fact, Mitch, that you can fill a room with people and they're willing to listen to that, look at what you're able to do. Like versus 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like, and that you're able to stand and people are willing to listen. Like that's big. Like anyone now can do that. You do have to walk the but how much have you had to walk through your fears and shit? And like your doubts and your bullshit, and you're still walking through it. Everyone is, right? But it's like every time something happens in the world, it's an opportunity for us to go into fear or be like, no, it's even more reason to speak up more clearly.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of the negative positive trap, it's just like, no, am I gonna suppress or am I gonna express and expand? And like just to bring it all home is, yeah, the system is locking people out and it will become more and more common. Yet we have that bridge to be that elite that can then change the system. That's literally why we fucking call it enter the 1%. But just getting your ticket,
Oh yeah,
that's part of it.
that's coming up soon.
But the 1+1, right? Or you get 10 people there. Like shout out Mayor and like the Houston people. They got like, Boris and the Germans, they got like groups of 20, 30 coming. That's really cool. That's real responsibility. And it's, if we were to equate it to the Matrix, it's like you're Morpheus looking for the other Morpheuses. All right, fuck Neo. Like fuck the one. Just Morpheus is looking for other Morpheuses. Because Morpheus, what does Morpheus actually mean? It's to morph. This is us morphing the system. Like it's right here. We have everything we need. It's just now pushing yourself every single moment. It's not just every day, it's every moment. Directing yourself in every single moment.
Yeah.
So
hey, if you don't have your ticket already, what the fuck are you waiting for? Come on.
I'm waiting for the World Economic Forum to send me an invite to Davos.
Right. And also those of you who have the ticket, how many people are coming with you?
Yeah.
Right. That's the next fucking level.
So you will become what you're one and equal to. Are you going to become your fears? Or are you going to become life and what you actually want to create in this world? And you go to the event and participate and be the one who would give to others.
Fuck yeah.
So we'll exit on this nice little ditty that we made yesterday.
Let's go.
Nice.
Diddy it up.
Here we go. Not that ditty.
Don't, yeah.
That's for all Diddy.
Equal and one.
can't believe a fucking computer made this. Still blows my mind.
It's all words. Wow. Let's
Nice.
go.
All right, y'all.
Take over. Make it best for all.
Yeah.
All right.
Peace. Christine.
You must address her as Sea God.
See God.